our theme for this month. This month in October, new month, new theme. We are talking about life, that eternal, everlasting nature of life. Ernest Holmes had a lot to say about this eternal connection that we had with spirit and everything around us, and how it was constantly evolving itself. In the early 20s, he wrote a list of things that he called the Declaration of Principles. We've come to know them as the What We Believe statements. And the What We Believe statements are really, they just talk about what it is that we use as fundamental principles here in Science of Mind. I fell in love with the third statement in there. I think I fell in love with it because it's kind of rolls off the tongue nicely. It's kind of lyrical and everything. But I also love it because of what it stands for. And so that third statement is, we believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. I just love that. We believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. Ernest Holmes didn't really believe in reincarnation. He believed in evolution, but he thought there was no reason anybody needed to come back and experience this plane of existence. He says there were so many vast number of planes of existence out there, why would we want to come back and do the same thing over again? And in the Eastern philosophies, reincarnation often is tied to karma. And so it's like, if you don't do right in this life, you might come back as an ant or a roach or a frog or, things like that. That kind of reincarnation doesn't work for me either. But everything that I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about from the belief system of Science of Mind and my own personal belief system. But the truth is, I don't know what's beyond this life because I haven't experienced it yet. Everyone who has ever written about what goes on after this life hasn't experienced it yet. They wouldn't be writing currently if they had. We have people who have had what they call near-death experiences, and they tell us about that. But they came back. So even what they're saying may or may not be the absolute truth. But what I believe about this thing that we call life, that extends beyond this mortal realm that we have here right now, is that it is absolutely filled with more love, more peace, and more joy than we could ever possibly imagine. I think that anything that we can say about it minimizes what the actual experience is going to be for us. That's my own personal belief system. Coming from different things that I've done over the years, different experiences that I've had over the years, different things that I've read and studied and so forth, that's what I believe. I believe that there's something so profound that waits beyond this experience that I'm having in this body right here, that it's beyond description, that it is that magnificent. As I said, Ernest didn't believe in reincarnation, but he did believe in evolution. He said that our life was an ever upward spiraling evolution of consciousness. And so we experience things on the lower spiral, and as we evolve in consciousness, we move up the spiral. And the things that we experience, we can look at them from a different point of view and experience them in a different way. But we were constantly on this ever upward spiral of evolution. In the Science of Mind, he says that the spiral of life is upward. Evolution carries us forward, not backward. Eternal and progressive expansion is the law, and there are no breaks in its continuity. The spiral of life is upward. We're not going to go backward, so that whole thing of the Eastern thought of becoming something less than what we consider our human state of being was something that was terribly foreign to him. He couldn't wrap his head around that at all. He said that evolution, and this is from the Science of Mind too, evolution is the awakening of the soul to a recognition of its unity with the whole. An awakening of the soul to its recognition of unity with the whole being a capital W, the whole being the divine, with spirit, with that infinite creative love intelligence that's out there. So we have evolution. In our Science of Mind philosophy, evolution is when what we are in this plane right here evolves to a higher state of consciousness. And so we have our Science of Mind teaching symbol. I happen to bring one with me today. So our Science of Mind teaching symbol, you've seen this probably before, the circle with the V and the two lines in the middle of it. So evolution is represented by this part of the V. And so it's going from form, which is down here, form like our bodies, and moving upward. And this little curved part signifies that it's going on constantly, that it never ends. Okay? So that's that part of the Science of Mind symbol. I'm going to talk about the rest of it here in a little bit. But that evolution is, again, going from this state of being that we are right now into a higher realm of consciousness, understanding more of our unity with Spirit, understanding more of the truth of who we are. And as we understand that more and get that relationship more, then we begin to experience things in a different way. We have different ideas about it. He says that no doubt our eternal evolution is an everlasting process through which we become more aware of life, life with a capital L. So it's an eternal, everlasting process in which we are becoming more aware of what we really are, more of our connection with Spirit, more of how there is this no separation. We lose a lot of our dualistic point of view about life. We can no longer believe in a God that sits on high and watches us from below, watches us down below here, that there's a separation from us. We know that we are one with it. We are immersed in it. As I've been reading this month, and actually for the last couple of years, I've been reading stories about the near-death experiences. I've gone through the transition of my mother, and then just recently my father. And, as you're sitting with people that are moving through that, I think there's a natural curiosity around what's happening for them, what's happening to them as they move through this experience. And so my friend Carol Lotz, who was here last month speaking, is a palliative care chaplain, which means she's dealing daily with people who are making that transition from this plane of existence to that next one. And so she turned me on to this book called After by Dr. Bruce Grayson, who is a medical doctor who has dealt with many, many people over the years as they've had near-death experiences. And so he's writing about those all along. And so he says in his book, After, I love this passage here, the consistency in almost all near-death experiences amounts to what they generally view as the divinity they encountered. Even if they experience themselves being part of it as something far greater than themselves. That is, although they may think of themselves as divine, they recognize that they are just one small part of a far greater divinity. Many experiencers of this analogy of a wave in the ocean describe this condition. The wave is one small part of a vast ocean, and it is composed of the same water as the rest of the ocean. Yet it maintains its integrity as a distinct wave with its own properties. Those who have had near-death experiences put it this way: a drop of the ocean is the essence of the ocean, though not the entire ocean. The ocean, though, is not complete except for the existence of the presence of every single drop from which it's composed. So this idea of we are one part of this vast ocean has been very prevalent in my life. In 2008, I lost my older brother. And I just started in as a practitioner in Science of Mind and was really doing a lot of reading and a lot of studying. And I started writing a blog. And so this is one of the blog posts that I wrote there. It's called I Am the Ocean. And I thought I would share it with you today because, again, it speaks to this idea that we are part of this whole. I am the ocean. You are but a single drop of rainwater returning once again to me. You and countless others reside within me. Each drop is a unique creation, for no two are ever completely alike. And yet when you are in me and I am in you, we are one. No separation, no boundary, no way to say where I end and you begin. You exist within me and I within you. At times we are so peaceful, calm, and serene, so clear that one can see to the very depth of the ocean. The truth is so apparent when we are at peace, and it is reflected back to all who gaze upon us. Our very presence soothes those who come upon us. And then there are those tumultuous times when we can't even see ourselves through the thick foam that clouds the reality. We rage and crash against anything that tries to contain us. And these emotions spill over to those around us. The winds whirl and part of us gets caught up in the vortex of emotions, which spread so rapidly and appear to be the power in and of itself. The truth becomes a distant memory that niggles at the back of our mind. For a time we are lost, too caught up in the storms that surround us to see our way. But the storms always dissipate, and we return to the peace and the love and the blissful state that is our truth. And here, once again, we feel the unending connection that unites us as one. I love that image of just being totally immersed in spirit. So immersed in spirit that there is no boundary around my body. There's nothing there. I've transcended this physical limitation and have merged with the consciousness of the whole. So, Ernest talks about this evolution. But evolution is not possible without the other side of the V. So we have this part here that's the evolution. And make sure I have it right for you, because I think I had it backwards before. Okay, so this is evolution over here. It was right for me. This side of the V is involution. And involution is bringing spirit into ourselves. Involution is what we do when we are praying. It is what we do when we meditate, when we are in contemplation, when we are having any kind of a spiritual experience that connects us with it. So on our symbol here, we have the 3 sections. So this first section up here is often thought of as spirit. And so spirit needs to move into form. As each one of us is created uniquely, spirit embodies us. It is merging with our consciousness, with our soul, with our very being. It is the very cells that make up this body. And so as it moves from this plane of existence where it's part of the ocean, where it's all, and our soul moves into form, we are involving. We are involving into form. We pass through this middle section. We often call this the soul. The soul is, it just is. It doesn't have any, just lost the word. There's no conditions in the soul. There are no conditions. Everything just happens in there the same way forever. But in the body down here, we can get different results. So we have our spirit up here, our soul here, and our body here. We often think of this as the creative process of moving from spirit into form and form back to spirit. And so in our creative process, we use the analogy of a seed, a soil, and plant. So up here in the top is the seed, the idea, the perfect thing. And we plant it in the soil. Now you know if you plant a tomato seed in the soil, and next to it you plant a carrot seed in the soil doesn't care which seed you've planted. It's going to do the same thing to the seeds that it would do, one or the other. It doesn't really matter which one you plant. So we plant an idea in spirit. Spirit doesn't care what the idea is. It's acted upon in the soul, and it produces an effect, the plant. So we have the idea of a tomato. We plant the seed in the soil, and we get a tomato plant emerging from it. Now, there are some things that we can do here. So it doesn't care, but we can make it a much more hospitable environment for those seeds to grow. You know, if you try to plant a seed out here in our desert, you're going to have to do a lot of work to make that seed grow. Now, it's still soil, but it's soil that's void of nutrients. It's soil that's probably full of rocks. It's soil that needs some water. And so in other words, to get our plant to grow, we have to do some work here. The work that we're doing here, that's our spiritual practices, our prayer, our meditation, our contemplation. We do that work so that what is in spirit involves itself into a healthier plant, into a healthier experience for us. So evolution is great because we're returning to spirit, but I think more important than that is the involution, is how we bring spirit into ourselves. What we are doing in our consciousness to make that environment more hospitable for spirit to fully inhabit us and have a greater experience in this plane of existence is what we are doing when we are in our spiritual practices. And this is, I think, the most important point here. Ernest says that involution always precedes evolution. So he says, involution precedes evolution in the creative sequence. Before anything can evolve, it must first be involved. The act of involution is a conscious one. We consciously have to make contact with spirit to have the experience of what it is that's wanting to be birthed through us. We involve ourselves in spirit to bring spirit into a greater experience for us. And then once we've done that, it's easy for us to evolve to a higher level of consciousness. The more work we do bringing spirit into us, the greater is going to be our experience when we evolve. I think that's kind of what evolution is. And this idea of reincarnation, I believe that sometimes we have experiences on this plane of existence so that we can clear stuff up and not have to do it again. I think that there are often times we come back into form because that's what we want to do. We want to clear that up. We want to make sure that we evolve to another higher level of consciousness. I find myself saying sometimes when I'm experiencing something as a challenge, well, I want to get it right this time because I don't want to have to do this again. Anybody join me on that one? I don't want to have to go through this again in the next evolution. I just rather not have this be my experience. So let me do the work now to clean this stuff up, to get it happening through me. Now, I know that the more we involve ourselves, the more spiritual practices we do, then the greater our connection to spirit becomes. And I know this because I've had experiences of it. I call these my God moments. These are the moments when I have been in that sense of no separation, that conscious union with the divine. I spoke of the feeling of having my body have no boundaries, where I am merged in spirit. And so, as I said, my older brother was making his transition in 2008, and I was at work. It was 2 weeks before he passed, and I kept having this strange physical sensation. It was like my body was expanding and contracting. And the longer the day went on, the more that intense that became. And I was a computer specialist at elementary schools. And so I'm like, I cannot go to my principal and tell him I'm having this energetic feeling of expansion and contraction and I need to go home. I couldn't do that. There was just no way. It wasn't going to go over. So I went to my office and I closed the door and I turned out the lights and I said, I'm just going to sit here until it's gone or something happens or whatever because I can't function at the way it was. And so I did. I went and sat down and I started to just meditate. And generally what I would start with at that point was, what do I know right now? I just would ask myself, what do I know right now? Because it gets me to that place out of my situation and into spiritual truth. And so, what came to me back then was, God is all there is. I know this. And so I'm sitting there, and it was just a matter of moments. And I heard very distinctly and very clearly, in a voice that I knew was not coming from my own consciousness, I heard, there's only peace. Oh, sorry. There is no pain, there is no suffering, there is only peace. There is no pain, there is no suffering, there's only peace. And I was instantly transformed. I felt like my body had the quality of who I was had transcended the physical form of my body. And I merged in that consciousness. And at that moment, every single fear of death passed away from me. Because I had that connection. I had taken the time, done the work that I needed to do to get myself to where I could make conscious union with spirit. And once I did, I was forever changed. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to begin to find those moments that are they're almost indescribable for the most of them. This one happens to be one I fall back on often to talk about because it's very easy for me to describe it. But so many of them have been, like I knew something happened, but I couldn't tell you what it was. But there was a feeling inside of me that was different than it had ever been before, and I knew it would never be the same again because of that sense of oneness that had just brought itself into my being. It had involved itself into me. And from there forth, my evolution is forever changed. how I return to spirit can never be the same as how I came in to this plane of existence, because I have been forever changed by that experience that I've had there, whatever that experience is. I was reading a book by Anita Moorjani called Dying to Be Me, where she talks about her near-death experience in going through a cancer journey. And she says this: in my NDE state, my near-death experience, I realized that the entire universe is composed of unconditional love, and I am an expression of this. Every atom, molecule, quark, and tetraquark is made of love, and I can be nothing else, because this is my essence and the nature of the entire universe. Even when things seem negative on all parts of the infinite, all the parts of the infinite are unconditional spectrum of love. An unconditional spectrum of love. I think if we can begin to wrap ourselves around the vastness and the totality of that experience, this love that transcends any kind of physical emotion, any kind of connection we have with any one person, that transcends us in so much, in so profoundly, that we're forever changed by it. And I think that's what these near-death experiences do. People that talk about them, they are forever changed. They can never go back to believing the way they did before, because something has happened that they often cannot even describe. In the book After, Bruce Grayson writes this of Kathleen Glenn. She had a near-death experience because she had a respiratory infection. At the age of 27, she says, the enormity of this event had such an impact on my life. It opened windows and doors to me that I have never knew existed. I was shown that religions are like jars of jelly on the shelf. I love that. Only each jar had a different label put on them by humankind. It's all jelly, and it's all sweet. There are many paths up the mountain to reach God, and it really doesn't matter which one you take, because when you get there to that mountaintop, it is all the same love, light, peace, harmony, gratitude, wisdom, joy, and victory for everyone. There are no religions in heaven, just jelly. But every one of them have described this feeling of love and peace and joy that transcends the human description of it. It is so profound that they cannot even put it into words what it is, and any words that we use limit it. I'm reading Pierre Pradervan is one of my favorite people to read, and he's got a brand new book out called The Gentle Art of Spiritual Discernment. And in there he's telling a story that was told to him by a Muslim imam when he asked him to describe God. And this imam says, Pierre, if you took every single drop of water in every ocean, every sea, every river, every raindrop, you would not have enough ink. And if you took every single tree and made it into a writing utensil, there would never be enough pens for you to write the name of God. It is so vast, it is so indescribable. This presence, this power, this love, this joy is so indescribable that you cannot ever put it into words accurately. Even with all of the water and the oceans and the trees on the planet, there would not be enough for you to write everything that it is. I think as we continue on this journey of evolution, that our task is to spend more time in the involution, to spend more time communing with Spirit, to have that conscious union with the divine, to have those mystical experiences, to have the God moments that I call them. Because I think as we do that, our path to evolution just becomes clearer and easier. You know, I don't know that we have to experience everything as we move up. I think we can take quantum leaps in our evolution too. And I think as we have these moments of divine connection, we are sent forward through that quantum leap, through that time and space continuum, to a higher level of evolution than we ever have before. And so I think our task on this world is just to find the different ways that we can commune with Spirit, to be in that place where we make that conscious contact and we feel that presence. You know, it can happen through all of our different spiritual practices. It can happen when you're sitting at the deathbed of a loved one. It can happen when you're driving your car. It doesn't really matter. But our task is to become aware of it, to make ourselves available for it, and to recognize it when it happens. And I think as we do that, we will continue on to ever higher planes of existence. We know that this life is eternal. In our Science of Mind symbol, the circle represents the wholeness, the unity. We've talked about those the last 2 months. The oneness of life, that is continuous. There's no broken place on the circle that surrounds this creative process. So it is a continuous, unifying experience here. And so our opportunity is always to have those moments of connection, those moments of that peace that passeth all understanding, the things that we can't even put into words. So I want to take us into a little bit of an experience here. You know, I love the experience that Kelly did in her meditation, where she took us through our physical form with the idea that the egg that we became was actually birthed in our mother while our mother was in our grandmother's womb. And if you extend that back generations after generations, you can see that continuity of our physical life. That forever and ever we are connected to one another. But sometimes it's harder to feel that connection in our spiritual life. And so let's just go within. Just take in a nice breath. And now imagine that you are breathing in through your skin. That the molecules of air are permeating every aspect of your body. You may even feel the hair on your arms or your face tingle as you breathe in through your skin. And now visualize yourself breathing out through your skin. Imagine all of the waste air, all of the products that we eliminate when we breathe out are actually moving through your skin. We think of our skin as a permanent barrier to the outside world. But that is not the truth. It is very permeable. We literally do breathe in through our air, through our skin, breathe out through our skin. We absorb moisture from the air through our skin, and we perspire it out. So now just as you continue to breathe in and out through your skin, just imagine it dissolving, where there is no longer that barrier between you and the outside world. There's just a sense of this flow, this ease, movement of the air in and out. And just know that the air that you breathe out also touches everyone around us. The air that you breathe in is filled with the essence of those around you. That we have this permeable flow through our bodies, inward and outward. And now just imagine that that is your essence. your consciousness, transcending the limitations of this physical body, moving out and joining with the consciousness of everyone around us. And this collective consciousness moving out from this room, filling the atmosphere around the building, merging with the consciousness of everyone else around us. And knowing that this collective consciousness also merges with the consciousness of the divine, that there is no separation. Just like drops of water in the ocean, each one distinct, yet each one completely immersed in the collective whole. And just take a moment and breathe into that consciousness of floating in that collective spirit, this unified state of consciousness. When you're ready, just bring your awareness back into this room, back into your body, knowing that right here and right now, everything is perfect and all is love. Okay, so let's take this into prayer. If the practitioners would stand and surround us. So right here and right now, I know that there is only one infinite life, one eternal existence, one power, one presence, one creative love and energy that is moving itself into expression in, through, and as all of creation. And I know this one is called many things, goes by many names. I simply know it as Spirit, the divine incarnation, the one. Because I know there's only one, I know that I am one with it, that there is no separation between what I deem my life and that one life. I know that I exist in this eternal, everlasting place of peace and love and joy. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for each one of us. That we are all unique and perfect manifestations of that one life. Living that life uniquely and perfectly, just the way that we do. And so knowing this perfection of life, I speak my word. I know that each one of us is on an ever upward spiraling continuum of evolution. That our lives are merged into that one life. And I know that our awareness of that coexistence of life allows us to experience it in more deeper and profound ways. I know that our task is always to find that opportunity to commune with Spirit, to make conscious union with the divine, and watch what happens in our lives as a result. For I know that this is a grand and glorious journey that we are on. And I'm grateful to be accompanying this beautiful community through the evolution of consciousness, through the unfoldment of life, and through the perfection that awaits us as we discover the truth of who we are. And so I release this word into the law, into that creative mind that has no limitations, no boundaries, that is just love unfolding. I let it go and I let it be. And together we say, so it is.